can you describe a little bit about sort of what was going on in your neighborhood, or like how you started to kind of get involved with the kind of life that led you into being incarcerated and what that was about?
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I feel like it's cliche to say, well, you know, I lived in it and it was all about it and this and that. And I feel like that's not wrong, but it's not right. It's not wrong because, yeah, I grew up in it and you just navigated through it. And I didn't really understand it until like trauma, you know, like more trauma, outside trauma. And to be fair, it took the loss of my father to me, like, and then like a veil dropped. I realized like so many things, the writing on the wall, the literal writing on the wall, the spray painting of the names, you know. I always use references to my dad's friends, you know. It's like one of them his name was Crow, you know. And I'm like, as a kid, before I knew, when I was still a little kid, and all these dudes used to be at my grandma's house with my dad and all my uncles. And then I just thought they were guys, you know, and cool guys, you know. Oh, this is my uncle, this is that. I didn't realize the tattoos meant something. I didn't realize that tattoos were like different. I didn't realize that these dudes were like, you know, drug addicts or, you know, murderers, you know. And once that happened, it dropped. And then, you know, you realize like I've been here my whole fucking life, you know.
How did losing your dad, how did the veil drop? Like how did that discovery happen?
I feel like it was just like a matter of like, now I just saw with my heart, you know. I saw with my, instead of with my mind and with my eyes, you know. I saw with the heart that I had, which was beat up by then, you know. It was like a little mauled and bruised. And then I realized it, and I saw the ugly of what the ugly is in the neighborhood, you know. The fucking dude in the corner that's like just strung out. Before I saw him, but then I'd be like, oh, that's, you know, that's Jay, man. I know Jay. He's been there for fucking ever, man. Right. Just, you know, just be careful. Sometimes he's a little crazy. He might get up and start swinging, but he's Jay, man. Right. He's in the corner.
Right.
That's all, you know. Like, then I realized, oh, Jay's fucking heroin addict. He's fucking gone. Like, Jay's been gone. You know, he's never been here. So
was it the finality of like losing your dad? Was seeing the circumstances of like how these things, now all of a sudden these things took on a different
everything was
resonance.
Different. And then Crow was not longer like I said before that. I go, fuck, man, I wish my mom named me Crow. That's a badass fucking name. I didn't realize that was a nickname, you know. I nicknames to me were like Meme or you know, or Cito, you know. Some of them used to call me Cito, you know, for little Josecito. You know, but those are nicknames. But I didn't know like Crow, Frog, you know, like all these gang names, you know, were like, oh shit, you know. And then you saw Frog for who he was, a motherfucking bully, you know. Like he was like, before, oh, that's Frog, he always gives me $1, man, or that's Frog, he buys me a bag of chips if he sees me at the store. But then you realize, dude, I saw Frog beating the living shit out of some dude and taking his, because he owed him money in the alley, man. Like, holy fuck, I didn't know that was Frog, you know. Like, yeah, now I knew who Frog was. Now I knew don't fuck with Frog, you know. Like, you know, before I had no like that fear or that understand. I would just walk through streets, and I would just walk because I didn't get it until that happened. I saw the streets for what they were, you know. That I was living in a neighborhood. I was living in this area where there's fucking monsters, you know, and there was prey and there was predators, and even the prey were predators somewhere else, you know. Right. It's just a matter of like, you know, how you saw it. And then all that sticking to the corner, arm's length, when I used to tell you about now it fucking kicked in, you know. And then that's what I mean, the veil dropped. Now I'm like at arm's length from Jay, because now I know, you know, he can probably hurt me, you know, even though before he wasn't, because maybe I was just nonchalantly walking by him and he was just like, you know how you see a lion and some little fucking lizard walks by and he's just like, you know, whatever. But now this lizard's walking closer, got a little bigger. Now the lion might fucking slap that shit, you know. So that's when I realized things like that. And then on top of that, my pain and my loss, like, not only that was like a jigsaw piece to the rest of the guys there, you know, my other kids like me, maybe not the same, but the same. Oh, he don't have a mom, he don't have a dad. Oh, well, he's almost like you know. So it's like, yeah, and we have the same thing. Hey, who's calling you? Like, hey, you know, you got to go home. You know, it's like 8 at night, 9 at night. Yeah. No, not really. No one's calling me, you know, because before I used to be like, Jose, you know, like somebody calling you, come home, you know, the fucking street lights are on, you know. We used to be playing ball, soccer, you know, before the veil dropped. Now, you know, it's like, no one's there calling you. No one's really tripping on you.
Yo, you can kick it. I'll kick it.
Yeah,
with
kick
you.
it. Yeah, I'll kick it with you. Fool. Like, and it's like, I don't want to go home. Me neither.
And then that becomes that adhesive, like you were saying. That those bonds. That becomes the love that you know.
And then everything gets flipped. Family becomes them. You know, good becomes bad. Yellow becomes green. You know. You know. So everything becomes opposite. You know. And so from that, and then obviously the what every teenager goes, you know, your friends are your biggest influence. This is at an extreme, because now you have someone like casually like sliding you a gun. Like, hey, you pain? You have some pain? You know, I'll tell you how you could release some of that pain, you know? Here you go, you know, like in some, not literal, but in a literal sense. Like, here you go, man. You know, get some power back, you know? And so here you are, and then you have this pain, this extreme pain. You have another person, people in a group of people, you know, and they just have this fucking pain, you know, this loss, this whatever, you know, and then, you know, fucked up dreams. You know, we have dreams, but they're fucking warped now, you know, they're different, you know. We're dreaming smaller. Before you were dreaming big, you know, like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna be an astronaut, blah, 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 you know. Now you're just dreaming like, fuck yeah, I'm just gonna come up, you know, I want a car, you know, like something small. We're dreaming small, you know. And then you have someone who's smarter manipulating you, you know. Hey, man, you just want a car? Cool, man, I could use you, and I'll get 70 cars. I'll give you a car, but I'll use your ass for the other 69, you know. Because I could see that you're gullible, you know. I could see that I could use you, you know. So then you have to navigate those dudes,
right? Because
then you start to hear, wait a minute, man. You know what? Nah, I know what you're trying to do, you know. But you can't buck back because you're still a little fish, you know. So you're like, okay, it's just a matter of like, either you buck back, stick in the wind another fucking time, or stay in the corner and try to survive, or you try to fucking be like, whoop. You know, like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to avoid that guy, you know, because at the end of the day, I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to recruit me, or he's trying to hurt me, or he's trying to take from me, you know. And so, yeah, that's what I feel like. I always equate that, you know, once that happened, like everything just went. That veil was dropped.
And you clearly had, I mean, you had a familiarity and a cogency at that point with violence, because there was violence in your own home in that sacred space.
Yep. Love was warped. But the love was warped. Love came with the slap.
That's
so
right.
It's like, even and it fit perfectly, because out there when we were together in the shittiest places and the shittiest times. We as in my friends, my same age, maybe a little bit older, and sometimes we'd buck heads. You know, I'm like, what? You know, and we'd you know, we'd fight each other, beat each other up, and then be like, hey man, you know why I did that, right? You know, we disagreed, but you know what? You know, we're cool. You know, the bond is solider now, because even though you fucking beat me up or I beat you up, like, that's how I know love, because I love you like that, you know?
With that love, can you just talk about sort of like your first encounters with I'm fascinated by the link of those two emotions of violence and love. I mean, I often said with me, you know, my closest friends that I made in my life were the guys that I grew up with, and they were the guys that we got in street fights with. They were the guys we played football with, and there's a currency there where if it's not just that you roughhouse with each other, that you fight each other, but it's like, hey, these guys, it's us against them, right. And the way to express my love to you is to really be down for you and to be there for you. Can you talk about your first real experiences with that, your first real experiences with violence and that you saw outside of the house?
Oh, man. Yeah, every day you'd come out and you see someone who's friends beating the shit out of each other. But then I feel like even though there was more experience then, I think it was better. I think it'd be better to me to say as an example is when I went to prison. Because when I went to prison, like in the unit that we were in, like the you know, we beat each other or we check each other with violence, and then we would always tell each other, like, you know what, that's homie love, you know, like I love you, man, but you got a little bit out of line, you know, and you find like bleeding out, and you're like, oh, thanks, you know, like, but it's also like that also solidified for me the fear of like realizing that I had a bigger fear of disappointing than a fear of dying, meaning like, I would rather go and get my ass kicked by 50 dudes by myself than to get my ass kicked by my one friend who I loved a lot and I esteemed a lot, or maybe an older homie who I loved and esteemed a lot, which might happen, but like, I'd rather them beating the living snot out of me than I disappoint that dude or them.
Not show up for them.
And then they hit me and then they fucking do that to me, you know? Because then if they're gone, I have nobody.
Do you remember your first sort of interactions with law enforcement and your feelings towards law enforcement?
The first interaction I had with a police officer, I think I was in kindergarten. And they would come to kindergarten with their fucking car. And like, they're cops, man. They look like heroes, you know? They're fucking handsome dudes, you know? Like fucking with their uniform all shiny, you know? And their fucking car pull up and they have a dog and they have this gun and they're like, you know this? And you're just like, fuck yeah, you know, this is the fucking the white knight that flies in and fucking clears a path. But then one thing is they never come back. like I said, the continuous theme, you know. And when they did come back, it was different. The next interactions I had with them, they were breaking down my door, and they were coming after my dad because someone called the cops because he was beating the shit out of my mom, and it was just fucking loud, you know. And they came and they cuffed him up, and it was just more of like.
How old were you then? Do you remember?
Man, maybe after kindergarten, maybe like first, second, and so.
And did you draw that in your head? That same, like, did it dawn on you, those same people that came into your kindergarten class, those heroes, those people that were so clean and handsome and heroic? It
did, but they were like your parents when they were not in their best. Like they were like your parents with disheveled hair, or smelling like shit because they haven't showered, or you know, so which happens, you know, like because it's normal. But now there was like a mar, there was a smidge of dirt on that sheen that they had, you know, and then they looked at me differently because no longer were they looking at you, they were looking through you, you know, like a fucking Terminator, you know.